In the untamed Wild West, where the horizon burned with both danger and promise, a lonely rancher named Thomas believed his days of hope had long passed. He woke each morning to the silence of an empty ranch, the whistle of the wind across his worn-out land, and the memory of a family he once dreamed of but never found. To him, life was survival, each day a repetition of feeding cattle, fixing fences, and mending wounds no one could see. But fate, in its mysterious ways, often sends gifts wrapped in ashes. One evening, as Thomas rode across the valley, smoke rose in the distance. His horse grew uneasy, the air heavy with the bitter smell of fire and gunpowder. He approached carefully, and what he saw made his heart stop. A small Apache settlement had been raided, burned huts, scattered belongings, silence too deep to bear. Among the ruins, he noticed movement. At first, he thought it might be an outlaw lingering in the shadows. But when he drew closer, he saw her. Barely conscious, wounded, yet alive. She was young, no more than 20, her long black hair streaked with ash, her eyes burning with both pain and defiance. Her name, he later learned, was Ayasha. Thomas knew the risks. To help her meant angering both settlers and outlaws alike, for tensions ran deep between ranchers and native tribes. But something inside him, something stronger than fear, told him he couldn't ride away. So, without hesitation, he lifted her into his arms, placed her gently on his horse, and carried her back to his lonely ranch. That night marked the beginning of a bond neither of them expected. At first, there was silence. Ayasha was wary, her trust broken by the cruelty of men. She refused his food, flinched at his touch, and spoke only in whispers when she had no choice. Thomas, patient as the desert itself, tended her wounds quietly. He left water near her bed, warm meals on the table, and never forced a word. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, Ayasha began to see that Thomas was not like the others. He worked tirelessly, not for himself, but for her healing. One morning, she spoke his name for the first time, soft but steady. That single word filled the quiet ranch with a warmth Thomas hadn't felt in years. As Ayasha regained her strength, she began to help. She gathered herbs from the hills, teaching Thomas remedies he never knew. She tended the animals with a gentleness that softened the wildest horses. For the first time, Thomas's ranch felt alive, filled with laughter, with shared meals, with stories told beneath starlit skies. But the world beyond their fence was not kind. Word spread quickly that a rancher was sheltering an Apache woman. Some neighbors warned Thomas. Others threatened him. And soon, riders appeared at his gate, men who believed kindness was weakness. "Hand her over," one of them spat, "before you bring trouble on yourself." Thomas stood tall, his weathered hands gripping his rifle, his voice steady. "She's not a stranger here. She's family. And I don't turn my back on family." The standoff ended without blood that day, but the warning was clear: danger was never far away. Through it all, Thomas and Ayasha grew closer. It was not a love born of haste, but of shared struggles, quiet gestures, and unspoken trust. He found himself watching her as she laughed under the morning sun, her spirit unbroken despite all she had endured. She, in turn, saw in him a strength not of violence, but of honor, a man who chose compassion over hatred. One winter morning, as snow dusted the ranch in silence, Thomas woke to a sight that stole his breath. Ayasha stood by the fire, holding a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Her eyes glistened as she whispered, "Thomas, we are not alone anymore." It was a child, their child. In that moment, the lonely rancher who once believed his life was empty felt a fullness too great to measure. Love had come quietly, not with grand declarations, but with the steady beating of two hearts choosing each other every day. The seasons rolled on. The ranch thrived not because of land or cattle, but because of the family it sheltered. Ayasha taught their children the wisdom of her people, the songs, the stories, the respect for the earth. Thomas taught them courage, hard work, and the meaning of integrity. Together, they built something greater than either had ever imagined, a home where love bridged differences, where kindness defied hate, where hope outlived loss. Neighbors who once doubted soon saw the strength of their union. Some came to understand that what Thomas and Ayasha had built was not rebellion, but redemption. Slowly, the ranch became a symbol, not just of survival, but of what the human heart can create when it chooses love over fear. And so, the lonely rancher who once thought his life was over discovered the greatest reward of all. Not wealth, not land, not power, but love, family, and a new beginning. Because in the untamed Wild West, where life was uncertain and tomorrow never promised, Thomas found that the bravest thing a man could do was to open his heart, and let love in. Red Heart.